do the Sicha of Tetzave Zayin Adar in Lekutei Sichas in Chelek Chavav, volume 26. We'll learn the Sicha Leilu Nishmas, our dear son Levi Yitzchak, Rav Levi Yitzchak, who was a dedicated shliach, and he was Isaac in the Miftzayim of the Rebbe, B'Leiv Nefesh, and very successful in the melacha that he did, and he was suddenly taken from us abruptly. Tehei Nishmos Yitzur B'Tzreir HaChaim, still learning it B'Teich HaShloshim. And also Leila Nishmas Avi Meiri V'Rabbi Rav Nochem ben Tzvi Hirsch, whose yahrzeit is on Zayin Adar, and there is a special connection, as we'll see in the Sicha, between Zayin Adar and the Stalkus, as we'll go step by step. In this Sicha, the Rebbe explains the idea that even though that the Parsha doesn't mention, Tetzave doesn't mention the name of Moshe Rabbeinu, some Mefarshim explain that that is because Moshe Rabbeinu's passing took place in the Parshas, which is Zayin Adar, is near Parshas Kisisa. Zayin Adar was when Moshe Rabbeinu passed away, and therefore Kisisa is the Parsha in which his name is not mentioned. But yet the Rebbe asks, but we see that the Parsha talks a lot about Moshe Rabbeinu. Adar V'ato is a loishon noichach, meaning and you, so it's even more than the name. And the Rebbe explained actually that is what happens when a tzaddik passes away. So why the gilui, the revelation of the tzaddik, is no longer there, but that's a limited level. The name is a limited level, but we are able to tap in into the etzem, into the essence of the name. Then the Rebbe will also discuss a little bit about the end of the Sikha, about that Tetzave is the gematria of 511, what the meaning of 500 is, 501, sorry, 501 extra. That shows on the etzem, on the higher than Hishtalshalus. Also, the number of psukim in the parsha of Tetzave is Malkiel 101. 100 is Hishtalshalus, and 101, one extra, is higher than Hishtalshalus, as we will see in the Sikha. We'll go step by step. Tetzave Zayin Adar Aleph. Zayin Adar, the seventh of Adar, which is Yom Ptiras Moshe Rabbeinu. That's the day of the passing of our teacher Moshe. Falto is Bereiv Hashonim. In most years, it comes out the smichas to Parshas Tetzave, close to the portion of when we read in the Torah the portion of Tetzave. Ubiyestate in Svarim, and as it is brought down in Svarim, is doa remes of them in their parsha. So there is a hint to Moshe Rabbeinu's passing in the parsha of Tetzave, because Parshas Tetzave, the portion of Tetzave is the Einzike Sedra in the Torah. That's the only portion in the Torah, Mishnah and Moshe Mishnah Torah, from the time that Moshe Rabbeinu was born, as we learned in the beginning of Mishnahs, until Mishnah Torah, who has nicht der Mont Moshe's name, which Moshe's name is not mentioned. Tetzave doesn't have the name Moshe in it. So the hint is that his name is not mentioned. But the Rebbe says, but okay, let it be, his name is not mentioned, but if he's passing, but we're actually, it's all about Moshe. We're talking about Moshe himself. Is l'chayrin is glati. In Parshas Tetzave, wird bloß nicht der Mond der Shem Moshe ben Meforish. In the portion of Tetzave, we're just not mentioning the name Moshe explicitly. It's not like we're not talking about Moshe Rabbeinu. We're talking a lot about Moshe Rabbeinu, but there is no mention of his name, Moshe. As I don't know, in der Sedra, but in the Sedra there is Aribui Psukim, many verses was reden wegen Moshe that talk about Moshe, batziehen sich zu ihm, and they reference him. With starting with the beginning of the actual Sedra. It says, Va'ato Tetzave. Who's Va'ato Moshe? Va'ato Moshe Tetzave. And you. So we are talking about Moshe. You, Moshe, should instruct or connect. But we're not ignoring Moshe. It's not like Moshe doesn't exist. There's many and many commands to Moshe. So Moshe is here. So how are we hinting Moshe's passing to not having his name here? But okay, we don't have the name, but we're talking about Moshe Rabbeinu. And even more, the Rebbe says, not having the name doesn't really mean anything because a tzaddik is all about what he does. So what difference does it make if his name is mentioned? How is this an allusion to his passing? The passing of a tzaddik is not to take away from the tzaddik. The tzaddik passes, but he leaves everything behind. So why would the passing of Moshe be hinted the fact that his name is not mentioned? Der nit der monnen dem tzaddik. Not to mention the tzaddik is heipach from dem inyan from his talkusum shel tzaddikim. This is contrary. This is the opposite of the idea of passing of the tzaddik. You're trying to say we're not mentioning the tzaddik. Moshe is not mentioned because he passed away, but that fakir, not mentioning his name, goes against the idea of the passing of a tzaddik. When a tzaddik werd nistalig from der Welt, because when a tzaddik leaves this world, rir das doch nicht on sein Shem Upoloisov. That does not touch his name and his activities. They bleiben la'ad. They remain forever, for eternity. Werden nicht vergessen, they're not forgotten, God forbid. As geht weg von der Welt, nor der Guf von dem Tzaddik. The only thing that leaves the world is the body of the Tzaddik. Wie sagt man, so how do we say, as the Histalkus from Moshe Rabbeinu, that nirmas, that how is the passing of Moshe Rabbeinu's? It's hinted in our parsha, Davke, durch niedermonnen sein Shem, not to mentioning his name. That's how it's hinted his Histalkus. Histalkus does not take away from the name. Noch mehr. Not only does our parsha speak about Moshe Rabbeinu, and we didn't leave Moshe Rabbeinu, but this parsha actually talks to Moshe Rabbeinu in the present, as if Moshe is present more than in other parshas. Always the Torah is talking about Moshe, but here the Torah is talking directly to Moshe, not about Moshe. Noch mehr. The tzivuim to Moshe in Parshas Tetzave, the commands to Moshe, that Hashem is commanding Moshe in the portion of Tetzave, seinen Beloshen Tetzave v'osiso v'lokachto, you shall command, you shall do, you shall make, you shall take. It's direct to Yitzvah. They seinen gesagt geworden zu Moshe Beloshen Neichel. They were said to Moshe directly, in present, that he's present. Hashem is speaking to Moshe. Is not somebody else telling us that Hashem spoke to Moshe, but the Torah records Hashem says to Moshe. Beis as beribim mekoimis, in many places. The smichas the parsha Pseinu, so parshas Mishpotim, and taking an example next to our parsha in the end of Mishpotim, Moshe ber dermon bishmai. We know, we mentioned him by the name. He says be'oifen as meret nor vegan Moshe. He talks about Moshe, like we say, "Vel Moshe Omar kilu shalei befonav," as if not. And to Moshe he said, "Go up." So the pasuk doesn't say, and there's one alei, but there's also this example, El Moshe Omar. So somebody is telling us that Hashem said to Moshe alei, but here we have ve'ato directly. We have the command very clearly to him. So we're actually talking a lot more to Moshe than even mentioning his name. So why is this Stalkus hinted, we say that his name is not mentioned here. And the Rebbe is going to explain that actually that represents the Istalkus, that his presence is more felt here, as the Rebbe brings down from the Zohar that is quoted in the Tanya. It states in Zohar, Tzadiko di ispater, a tzaddik who has left, Ishtakach b'kula almin yatir mi. He finds himself in all worlds, even more than he was. He's more present in all worlds, more than he was mibechayoy, than he was in his lifetime. As a tzaddik gefindt sich noch sein petire in alle olamis. The tzaddik finds himself even after his passing in all worlds. Koilul olam hazeh, which means it includes this world too. Noch mer mibechayoy, even more than his lifetime. Un yatir mibechayoy, and even more than his life. Meant. So when we say here more, what does it mean by more than his lifetime? Meant it's tama yisrael, doesn't mean just some advantage more. Nor a yisrael she'loi be'erech, an uncomparable advantage of a presence after while the Alter Rebbe is mevayir. Alter Rebbe explains this Zohar. Why are we saying that it's infinitely greater the presence of the tzaddik after he passes from the world? Aleph. When the tzaddik was alive on the face of the earth, Zainen die Chaye hat tzaddik given on Giton in a kli ulevush. The life of the tzaddik were dressed in a vessel, in a garment. Begufa, the body was a container, a vessel for the neshama. The life of the tzaddik, the vessel, the body was the vessel for the tzaddik's lives. The tzaddik's life was in the guf. And then you can only get a ray. You don't get the essence of the chayat tzaddik, as opposed to after the passing. So the life of the tzaddik are no longer in a vessel. And that's why you can call it, receive from the level of ruach the essence of the tzaddik, because there is not the life invested in a vessel, in a body, but it's in a much higher level. So that's number one. And number two, base, the petira from a tzaddik, that with the passing of a tzaddik is aliyas ruchai unishmosei lemikar chaytzvei. The spirit and the neshama of the tzaddik go up to the source from where it comes from, it was carved out. Un oich di madrega from tzaddik, the is mekoyer chaytzvei. So also that level of the tzaddik goes up to his source from where he was carved out, which means the highest level from where he comes from, the tzaddik. And also that level of the tzaddik, that is mokar chaytzvei, whereas it's the source for carved out, is ishtakir dolamata, finds himself over here. So first of all, there's no limitation from the physical body, A, and B, what we get is the tzaddik in his highest potent, in his highest level, because the tzaddik is elevated to the source of his place that he was carved out, and that comes down into this world. So it turns out, as is talkusum shel tzaddikim haben hat zwei Ktsoves, that the passing of the tzaddikim has two extremes. The stalkus von a tzaddik begashmi is the passing from a tzaddik physically is verbunden mit seiner stalkus v'aliyah beruchnis. that is connected with his removal and his elevation on the spiritual level. It is oila, as in the second point, it is oila be'ilu achad ilu bis to shorshe u'makoyra rishon. He goes one elevation after another until he goes up to his very first root and source, Makor Chotzvei. That is associated, he goes up from the Gashmis to the Ruchnis and the Ruchnis to the highest level. In sein Atzmius, to his essence, was is in ganzen Hecher from Gilui, which is entirely higher than revelation, underfar. And because the Tzaddik's great elevation is so high, is the Tzaddik Taka in the Tod Be'elamad Be'efim Goli. That's why he's not here in the revealed way, because he's not revealed present here because he's gone up. But on the other hand, the ganze Atzmius from the Tzaddik, the entire essence of the Tzaddik, is done la'achar petirose. So then, after his passing, his whole essence in an oifun von Yishtakach b'kul alma. It's in a way that it's found, it exists, it's present in all the worlds. Bis olam has it till this world. The riber kenmen von ihm mekabel sein, and that's what you can get from the tzaddik yatir mibechayoyi, more than this lifetime, because you're not taking a ha'ore, you're taking from the etzem, and the etzem comes down into this world, the highest level of the tzaddik, and that's why it's yatir bechayoyi. So since we're saying that the passing is a time that we get the essence of the tzaddik, that's why we don't have the name Moshe, which is a revelation. We have the ve'ata, we have the essence. Gimel in them tam. So based on this, we understand the reason. Because his talkuse shel Moshe is merumas. The passing of Moshe is hinted davke durch nit der monen shmoishel Moshe, specifically by not mentioning the name of Moshe by Parshas Tetzave in the portion of Tetzave. The nomen von a mention is nit etzem mitziuse. The name of a person isn't his essence. The name is not essence. In Yonei von Hashem, what is the idea of a name? Is negeya fardem zulos. That's something which is important, touches the outside, the other. So that someone else can refer to him by name, you need a name. So a name is the place in you which you need to connect that somebody else can call you with a name. Der Mensch für sich darf nicht genommen, the person on this for himself doesn't need a name. Actually, when the child is born, before your name, he still exists. The name comes later, as you see practically, in actuality, as a nomen wird gegeben, kama yomim noch leides hablad, that a name is given several days after the baby is born. Be'ez as mitzias hablad, but the existence, the entity of the baby, of the fetus, the newborn is not taken mishen oilad. That's immediately when he's born. There's an existence. As soon as he came out into the air, to the world, he entered the world. He's already existing. He doesn't have a name, so he can exist without a name. He's a full entity, and one day old, has the status, he would inherit from the Torah. If his parents leave an inheritance, he would inherit because he's already an entity. He's one day old. Yerish HaKoil, he would get everything. So I mentioned the Noichach. So that's what a name is. But when you talk to a person present, say Ata you, that's not like a name, which is for other people. That's you're turning to the person himself. The essence and the person in general. So Derech Zeh bin Negei Moshe. Similar is by the get to Moshe. The Nomen Moshe, the name Moshe is gegeben geworden am Meshach's man noch sein later. That was given to him sometime after his birth. Not only was it given to him after his birth, it was given by Paro's daughter, Nochmer. The Nomen Moshe is bepashtus im gegeben geworden. The name Moshe simply was given to him on the simple level, nicht von seinen Eltern, not by his parents, nor from Bas Pare, from the daughter Pare, because she said, Ki min hamayim mishisiu, she called him Moshe, from the water I draw you out. Und das ist der Remes of his Talkus shel Moshe beparshas Tetzave. So this is the hint on Moshe's passing in the portion of Tetzave. Shas is Talkus shel Moshe. At the passing of Moshe, is a nis'ale geworden in sein Atzmius shel Milo, in his Shalamalo. He elevated to his essence of above, V'chinas Shem, Shalamaylo V'chinas Shem, which is higher than level of name. He went up to his essence. The far werte the Parshas Tetzave, and in Parshas of Nish, the Mon B'Shmoi, Moshe is not mentioned Moshe, but is Avkan, but he's still here, standing. He's still influential. He's still present. He's still here. Not only is he still here, with his entire essence as he is in the heavens. Und der Far is Moshe Faran, the Parshas Tetzave, and that's why Moshe exists in Parshas Tetzave. Not only does he exist, talk to him present. Was weist, that points with the Kligyokar is Mefarish. The Kligyokar explains if Mahus Atzmusum from Moshe, that this shows Ata on the essence and the essence of the entity of Moshe Rabbeinu. So his name is not there, but he is there more present and more noichach than a name can be. Because a name is only a ha'orah. Noichach, Ata is the noichach. That's what happens with the passing of a tzaddik, that there is a higher level of the tzaddik that comes down because the elevation of the tzaddik into his source. The Rebbe wants to say now that this is actually hinted in the name of Tetzave, the essence of Moshe. The whole parsha is called Tetzave. And the Rebbe is going to take the gematria of Tetzave, and the Rebbe cautions that we can't just come up with own gematrias, but when the contents fit, and then we can also make a gematria that the numerical value comes along, then the main thing is not the connection, is not the numerical value. The connection is the content, that it makes sense, that there is an inherent connection. The gematria just shows to that, hints to that. Now, Moshe wird nicht der Mund in der ganzen Sedre. Moshe's name is not mentioned in the entire Sedre. Is the verstandig. So from this it's understood as the Teuchen from ganz Parshas Tetzave, the content of the entire portion of Tetzave is verbunden mit sein Etzem, is connected to his essence. Shalamaylu Mishim Moshe, which is higher than in Moshe. All of Tetzave is higher than just Moshe, but it is all Etzem of Moshe. Apia Yedua. This is all hinted in the name of the Parsha, because it's known, based on what is known. And we will come upon explained many times, as the Teuchen for Yeder Sedre is Merumas in your nomen, that the content of every Sedre is hinted in its name. Darf men sagen, so we need to say, as the Inyan ha'amur b'shayches to Moshe, the above idea that we said to Moshe, that Moshe's name is not here, but his essence is here, is merumas in them Shem HaSedra, is hinted in the name of the Sedra. Was leit minag Yisrael, we gedruckte Chomoshim, as the Jewish tradition, and also printed in Chomoshim, is as Tetzave. The word is Tetzave. V'yashleimer Habir was say the connection to the portion of Tetzave, the name Tetzave, to the essence that we're talking about, that in this parsha, there's only the essence of Moshe, but not the shame of Moshe. Yeshlemer Abir Bazel Bahagdim. See the explanation, but the Rebbe wants to introduce the idea of gematria. Aval Pi, as eine from the Führer von Limud HaTorah, although that one of the four styles of Torah study is the Limud al Derech HaRemes, is learning according to the hint. So the word of hint and gematria are part of Torah study. What's his called the meaning of gematrios? Hint includes the idea of the gematria. When they make gefintas in Sforim from Gedolei Yisrael, as we find it in the books from the great of Israel, the great rabbis, with their Baal HaTurim. Baal HaTurim, he has many gematrios, Megala Amukis, V'oid, they used gematria. Is over move on, but it's understood that this is nitkin so the perutzer. It's not a breach field. It's not a field that anybody can come and come with their own gematrias. Vayedron tzumachem eigene gematrios for everybody to come up and make on their own gematria. But yeder gematria daf hab mamokim. Every gematria needs a source. When zwei Wörter haben dieselbe gematria, when two words have the same gematria, just because two words have the same gematria is noch nicht kein Hechrech of der Scheiches Primis zwischen sich. That's not yet something which convincingly forces us to say that there is an inner connection amongst them. Das ist, wenn sie haben a Teuchen Meshutov. The inner connection is if you can find, if they have an inner content connection, not just a numbers match. It's not a numbers game, but it has to fit. Was dann regt sich das aus. But then, if there is a content connection, this expresses himself as a sign and a proof in the Ishtabus that the gematrias come out the same. Und es ist verstandig, euch von dem alten Rebens Biur in Tanya, in Ina Gematria. Also understand this, the explanation of the Alter Rebbe and the idea of Gematria. As the Gematria von a Wort weist of the Bechina Achrena, that the numerical value of a word shows the last level, Shubechinas HaCheshben Umispar. That is the level of the accounting and the number, Kamo Mine Koiches, how many different powers, the number of the gematria shows about how many different types of koiches get into making up that word, that gematria. Was eine Faran Tevazu that are in this word. So that's the number. The number gives up the gematria. But listen, the selbe gematria weiß. So if you have the same gematria too, it shows as you have the selbe tzol koiches. They have the same number of koiches because that's why they have that same number of gematria that comes out the same. In Zeyer Oir V'chayis. So it means that in the Oir V'chayis you have the same number there. This one has the number, that one's the number. But that's all what it tells you if you just look at the number. Aber sagt nicht as der Teuchen für the koiches, but this doesn't tell us that the content, what these powers von ein Wort haben Mashayches zum Teuchen HaKoiches, that they have a connection to the content of the powers von zweiten Wort that has the same numerical value, but doesn't tell you that. We don't know, you just know the number, how many koiches it have. But b'shas ben veis as es do Mashayches in Teuchen, zwischen the zwei Wörter, but when you know that there is a content connection between these two words, not just that they have the same number, there is some common idea in both of them, is the gematria. So then when you have the numerical value, oichas simen, that is also a sign, as to seinen b'shorshim, that in the root they have the zelben mine koiches, that they have the same koiches, not that they're just equal in number, but the number are the same, the number and the same koiches, because you see they are contently that they're the same. welche seinen Klulois be'er v'chayis, with the zwei Wörter that are included in the light and the energy, but in these two words. But they send it from level to level. And they have gone through one diminishing after another diminishing. Actually, nishar mimenu from the Merva Chayis until that from that Erva Chayis is nothing left. Elo b'china achrona, only the last level. Shu b'china sachesh, they only have the number. Und der Fahr seinen sie andere zwei Wörter. That's what the words are different. Because all that was left from the content, from the original, from there, where they come from, they went through different changes until all what we have left is that they do have the same number. And that's why there are two words. But in this case, there is a content connection, and the content connection leaves us the same, but different words, but there is a connection. So what does this tell us now? Is the gematria from word Tetzave, the gematria, numerical value from the word Tetzave, noisef lozeh adosis from the gematrios, or in the eigen. This is a numerical value that, they're just in your face, it's in front of your eyes. Is the bir del kama miyusid. So the explanation at all for this is not just using the number 501 of Tetzave, but because there is a Teuchen for Parshas Tetzave, Nitoy v'cheshbon v'gematria. So this, based on the idea of the Parshas Tetzave, is the essence of Moshe. It's inyan, not because the cheshbon gematria, but it turns out also, as the Rebbe will explain, that the number and the value of the Oishev Tetzave fits this idea. That's what the Rebbe is going to explain here. Hey, so now the Rebbe explains what the gematria is. The gematria from Tetzave is Tov Kuf Aleph. The numerical value of Tetzave is 501. Was in the Mispar Eins Mer B'Chomesh Meis. The number, when we say one above 500, that nirmas the madrege from etzem, that hints to the level of essence. Was is hecher from shame, which is higher than shame. 500 would be shame. There quotes the Maimer Chazal, the Eibishter went 500 mils licklis no shame. Shame is 500. One is one higher than shame is the etzem. The beer was it. Chazal sagen, sages tell us, halacha kadosh baruch hu, mahalei chomesh meis shana liknes lo shem. Shem went a distance of 500 years to acquire for himself a name. Uvur in them, so it's explained in them in this. The klolus ha'olam seder ishtalshlus, generally the world, seder ishtalshlus tells sich ois. It sets itself up from the 500. We have the B'riyat, Sida, Asira, and Keser, which is the general Sheder Shtalshalus. It's 5. 5 times 100 is 500. When Hashem went 500 years, werd Oigeton der Inyan from Likles Loi Shem. This accomplishes for Hashem to acquire for himself the name. That's the revelation of Hashem's name. Hashem, and as we said before, Hashem Hashem is a level that points to someone else. There is somebody to call him by his name. That is the idea of shame.